Did anyone else find it really funny how they kept cutting people off mid-sentence? Don't Look Up is about Dr. Mindy, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, and Kate Diabosky, played by Jennifer Lawrence, as two low-level astronomers that discover a comet heading directly for Earth that will wipe out all life as we know it. The film centers around these two main characters as they struggle to convince the world of this inevitable cataclysmic event. Throughout the whole movie, I was in awe at the absurdity of almost every character. Some may find this movie to be a little bit too over the top, but I thought it was more of a surrealist or a hyper-realist type of film. I absolutely loved it. The way in which the characters feel as though they could be real people living in our world today really gave this film an unsettling but a familiar kind of vibe, which is even more unsettling when you think about it. The only character I found to be a little too over the top was Jonah Hill's character.
Come on, bro.
Normally, I love Jonah Hill in almost everything that he's in, but his character felt a little bit too much like a cartoon to me, whereas every other absurd character in this movie walks the line between real and a little too unrealistic. Like the president, played by Meryl Streep, I thought there was more of a balance between the absurd and the familiar. When Dr. Mindy first tells her that all life on Earth will 100% be destroyed, she completely writes it off in a comedic fashion. But there's a level of realism there, and the argument could be made that she was just in denial and thinking about her own self-interest. It's not until Dr. Oglethorpe, played by Rob Morgan, says
what we call a planet killer.
And that's when it gets her attention to even remotely consider Dr. Mindy's suggestions. So I think the level of absurdity in this film was pretty much perfect in every way. I know satire is usually funnier when it's subtle, but I laughed so hard during this entire movie. I think in 2021, satire needs to be a little bit over the top because it's a critique on society, which has seriously gone off the rails lately.
We are concerned about supplementary and irresponsible, one-sided news stories plaguing our country.
The movie isn't subtle, but at the same time, it's not really exaggerating anyone's personality or behavior. When Dr. Mindy and Kate arrive on the media circuit, the hosts of the new show, played by Tyler Perry and Cate Blanchett, are exactly what you would expect. Over the top, charming.
Would you please just stop being so pleasant?
When Dr. Mindy finally gets the chance to explain that we're all going to die, no one takes him seriously.
It's my ex-wife's house. I needed to be hit. Can we make that happen?
When Kate explodes and yells that we're all going to die, everyone writes it off as a mental health issue. The amount of relatability in this movie is on another level. If I didn't know this movie was written as an allegory for climate change, I definitely would have thought this movie was written for the entire COVID situation, because this movie basically applies to how our society treats world-ending or world-crippling news. I think it's actually a really important movie right now because it kind of shows what will happen if we kind of let this whole mess continue. The film was directed by Adam McKay in very much his style of kinetic filmmaking. The movie switches from close-up shaky cams mixed with really jagged editing when we first learned about the comet to intentional and purposeful camera movement when the characters in the movie are making light of the situation and trying to give comfort. The star-studded cast, along with heavy dialogue and socio-political commentary, is very much in the same vein as The Big Short or Vice, but this movie has a bit more obvious comedy to it. It's as if he was able to take the best parts from those two movies and mix in the humor from his Step Brothers and Anchorman days. But that's not to say that this film is just a flat-out comedy. The allegory of not looking up, or basically burying your head in the sand, during a time when qualified scientists are being ignored can be really frustrating. But, and without spoiling too much, there's a real message in this film that not looking up can sometimes be a good thing. I know most of you have probably felt exhausted from trying to know what's real and what isn't real these days. So the film lets you know that sometimes it's okay to take a break every once in a while. As long as you try to do your part, you shouldn't let the world get you down just because you can't save it alone. I think one of my favorite lines in this movie was Kate telling Timothée Chalamet's character, which was absolutely hilarious, by the way. He's so great in this movie. When Kate says,
"They're not even smart enough to be as evil as you're giving them credit for."
But I gotta say, my absolute favorite character of this movie was Peter Urschel, played by Mike Rylance.
Hello, everyone.
He absolutely stole every scene that he was in. The comparisons between his character and the billionaires we have today, like Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg, and Jobs, are really obvious, and Rylance plays the role perfectly. His socially awkward and overly confident demeanor seriously made me belly laugh a few times. It's a good thing that there's an after credits scene, because after the movie ended, I just kind of sat there in silence while the credits rolled by. There's a lot to process with this film, and I still don't know if this movie left me more depressed about the current state of things, or comforted knowing that I'm not the only one losing my mind. Either way, this movie hit me really hard, so on a scale of 1 to 100, I give this movie an 83.
Come on, bro.
Remember to please like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time.